You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Businessman there, drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show. Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Indeed, we are everywhere. We're everywhere. And joining me today as my co-host is the president and CEO of AUN-TV.com, Dana Allen. Dana, welcome to Conservative Commandos.
Thank you, Rick. I'm just curious, am I coming in clear, my friend?
You're a little echoey. Could you get a little bit closer to the microphone?
Yes. Is this better?
A little better. Can you turn up your volume slightly?
Yes, sir.
All right. Great to have you with us, Dana.
Okay, yeah.
So, Dana, what's on your radar screen today?
Well, I know we have a couple of great guests. George Landreth, who I interviewed at CPAC a few weeks ago, and he has some really interesting facts that, according to our own intelligence services, apparently we lose like 3 times more money to the Chinese from hacking, computer hacking of company secrets or whatever, than the entire value of all of our exports to China. Now that figure blew me away.
Indeed. Well, Dana, did you pay your income taxes? Time is coming up in about 3 weeks or less than 3 weeks. It will be April 15th. Which means that Americans across the country are required to file their income taxes. Have you done yours?
Nope. I'm like a lot of other people, Rick.
Well, apparently there is approximately 6.5 million taxpayers across the country that have paid $3 billion in Obamacare penalties for not having health insurance in 2016, according to preliminary data from the Internal Revenue Service Commissioner. And beginning in 2014, the Affordable Care Acts, I don't even know why they call that anymore. It's called Obamacare. All right? That's what it is. Beginning in 2014, Obamacare individual mandate required Americans to purchase health care coverage or pay a penalty to the Internal Revenue Service. While the number of taxpayers paying the penalty has declined since 2014, maybe that's because people aren't earning money, but the total amount of penalties paid to the IRS has increased since then. In 2014, individuals without insurance had to pay the greater penalty of either a flat fee of $95 or 1% of their household's adjusted gross income in excess of the threshold for mandatory tax filing. In 2016, those penalties increased to a flat fee of $6.95, or get this, Dana, a whopping 2.5% of the adjusted gross income. Well, I don't understand this, Dana. This was supposed to be free insurance, right?
Well, and it was also supposed to reduce, according to Barack Obama, the insurance cost by an average, I think he said, of $2,200 per family. It's one of the biggest lies that has ever been made in politics in American history.
Indeed. Well, God bless us. Do you think a politician would ever lie to us, Dana? How can that happen?
Usually they only do it when their lips are moving.
Yeah, usually, but it turns out a lot more often than that.
We have another guest today, Dr. Alina Johnson-Powell, and she's going to talk about that. I'm going to try to persuade her she's wrong, but she thinks we're stuck with Obamacare, even though she's totally against it. So that should be an interesting conversation also.
Well, you say she's wrong. She says she's right. I'm afraid she is right, Dana. You know, if I was a betting person and I were to say at this time, are we stuck with Obamacare? I would say yes. I would say yes. And Dana, how do we define Obamacare as it is presently created? How do we define Obamacare as we may have it in the future? I say anything with individual mandate, anything with penalties for not having insurance, anything with taxes or fees or fines on medical devices, on individuals, anything like that to me is Obamacare. Call it by any other name, it's Obamacare.
Yeah,
and I think we're going to see that.
The whole thing's unconstitutional, as is Medicare, and whatever else. I mean, there's just nowhere in the U.S. Constitution that says the federal government has the right to force people to buy insurance or really anything to do with medical care. They got around it. States. That's why a doctor doesn't get a national health license. He gets a California or Virginia health license. It's something that was always supposed to be under the control of state governments, and by the American way was all they did was license doctors. They didn't have anything to do with forcing people to buy health care or anything else like that.
Well, they got around it in the Supreme Court, and John Roberts went along with them when they said that this was a tax. But but then it should have been thrown out, Dana, because as the law is written, this law originated in the Senate and not in the House of Representatives, where all new taxes are supposed to originate.
Yep.
So I believe this.
The worst thing that John Roberts ever did is appalling. Basically, what he says, he took a look at this, and his job as a judge is to say, this is constitutional, this is not constitutional. What John Roberts did was he says, this is unconstitutional, but I will rewrite the bill without the permission of any citizens or the Congress or anybody. I'll rewrite the bill so it is constitutional. So it's basically the law. Maybe it should be called Roberts Care.
I call it illegal. I don't care what you want to call it. Obamacare, Roberts Care, Rhino Care now. I say it's illegal because if this is a tax, this tax originated in the Senate and not with the House of Representatives, where taxes are supposed to originate.
I know. It's totally illegal. And what's your take on this, Rick? That I'm as a citizen, I'm irritated at what's going on with Obamacare in the last couple of weeks. In terms of, I just want it killed. I've always wanted it just to be killed. And the media or whatever, and politicians mostly pretend that we have to have Obamacare light. It's just there's just no option of killing it. Where's this come from?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
You're asking
I can't figure
me?
It out.
I don't know, because it makes no sense, Dana. This whole thing has never made any sense from the beginning. This is, and I keep telling you, it's an illegal law. Where did it come from? It come from people in the Democrat Party who believe that they can control 1/6 of the nation's economy if they can control health care.
Well, look at what a good job they've done with Detroit. What do you have to fear if Democrats have total control, Rick?
Now you're really
outside of total failure, what do you have to fear?
Now you're really getting to me, my friend. Now you're really getting to me.
Yeah, and I think they wanted it to fail so that they could go to a full Joseph Stalin style national health care system. That's their ultimate goal. Barack Obama said that in a speech once, that that's what he really wanted, but they used this as a stepping stone to get to full-on communist health care. And so I think they want all the problems that we have now. I think they want rates to go up, because if they had won the White House again, then they could have pushed for let's go all the way.
Well, they surely have. They surely have. And what's confounding me, Nell, is the mess that's going on in Congress today. Donald Trump promised he was going to repeal this. He's got to repeal this. The members of Congress got to get behind him and repeal this, which means repealing the individual mandate, which repeals requiring individuals to have health care, and repealing any taxes associated with Obamacare. We must scrap this. We must go back to the method that we had before Obamacare. Yeah, this is going to throw things in chaos. This is going to throw health care into chaos for a while. But you know what, Dana? It will all calm down. We've got to go back to people being responsible for themselves and buying their own insurance.
Rates have skyrocketed. If you're more accurately call it, it would be the Non-Affordable Health Care Act, the whatever. I'm missing on my acronyms here, but I would jump for joy if it was totally repealed today.
All right, Dana, we got to go to break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dana Allen and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Today's show, like all our shows, is being brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Don't go away, Dana, and I'll be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
there must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamb-Menier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Menier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We, the people, never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dana Allen and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, and also simulcast on radio stations AM 1360 and FM 92.1 in Tampa, Florida, AM 1520 and FM 99.5 in Las Vegas, AM 810 and FM 87.9 in Macomb, Georgia, AM 1460 and AM 102.1 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, FM 96.3 in Boulder, Colorado, FM 90.3 in Milwaukee, and FM 94.7 in Pittsburgh, as well as FM 101.5 in Long Beach, California. We want to welcome all our listeners listening to us on our affiliates. So, Dana, what's let me see. Here you go. Here you go, Dana. More about Barack Obama. As his presidency drew to a close, Barack Obama's top aides routinely reviewed intelligence reports gleaned from the National Security Agency's incident intercepts of Americans abroad. Taking advantage of the rules, their boss relaxed. Starting in 2011, it helped the government better fight terrorism, espionage by foreign enemies, and hacking threats. Dozens of times in 2016, those intelligence reports identified Americans who were directly intercepted talking to foreign sources or were the subject of conversations between two or more monitored foreign figures. Sometimes the Americans' names were officially unmasked. Other times they were so specifically described in the reports that their identities were readily discernible. Among those cleared to request and consume unmasked NSA-based intelligence reports about U.S. citizens were Obama's national security advisor, Donna Rice, and his CIA director, John Brennan, and then attorney Loretta Lynch. Some intercepted communications from November to January involved transition figures or foreign figures, perceptions of the incoming president and his administration. Intercepts involving congressional figures also have been unmasked occasionally for some time. Guess what, Dana? He was spying on Americans. He was spying on Donald Trump. He was spying on Trump's transitional team. There it is.
Yeah, well, the way that the National Security Advisor, got in trouble and had to resign was because of this. They had, tape recorded messages of him talking to the Russian guy, so how they get that stuff. So, yes, and this has been going on a long time. Our good friend Larry Klayman from Freedom Watch, he won a Supreme Court decision. And in that Supreme Court decision, first, it was publicly known that they were recording every phone call for all of us and had done it for years. And he won the case in the Supreme Court that the Supreme Court ruled that the government had to stop listening and recording all of our telephone conversations. So that's where we started from. Now, supposedly they stopped, okay? But do you think they really stopped?
No!
I don't either.
No, I don't think they really stopped.
be careful what you say when you're on the telephone.
Be careful. Be careful.
I just assume that it's, there's not a human being listening. They don't have enough money to do that. But assume that a recording is probably being made, and it was a known fact that they did record all the telephone conversations. I think for 10 years they admitted that. And why do they do this? Okay, there's some good reasons for this, in terms of criminal activity, terrorism, or whatever. But amongst politicians, which is what you're talking about, was the Trump transition team being snooped on. It's blackmail. I think that Washington, D.C., to a large extent, has been run by blackmail since at least 1994. And it's a known fact that J. Edgar Hoover was blackmailing presidents into letting him go past the official, retirement age. I think he worked until he's like 80 years old, and you're supposed to retire at 65 in the government. So, yep. I think when I really noticed it was when Roger Clinton threatened a Congressman Livingston, about, you shouldn't be trying to impeach my brother because we have stuff on you. He basically said that in public.
Mm-hmm.
You're someone that lives in a glass house. Don't throw rocks. And so Livingston didn't back off. He did his job, and he was gone within a week. They revealed that he'd had an affair, and he had to resign from Congress. I think this stuff goes on all the time, except for most of the politicians aren't like Livingstone. They're not that brave. They just do whatever they're told to do. Am I crazy, Rick?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think you're dead on accurate about all that.
Yeah. They are. One more thing. We talked to, we were talking about Obamacare, Abomination Care. For the listeners out there, the conversation on this is unbalanced. It's like, well, we have to, repeal and replace. If you want it repealed, as I do, call your congressman, congresswoman, or senator and tell them, forget all this other stuff, just kill it. Because I think it was the senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, said that the previous thing when they voted down Obamacare, except for Obama would kill it, was that they said that we have 2 years to come up with an alternative if we want to. In other words, it wouldn't be instantaneously dead. It would be, in the cards that it would be dead for sure. But if they wanted to continue, let's say, children up to 25 being on their parents' policies, they could put that in later. And we voted for that. The Congress and the Senate voted for that several times. Why don't we put the same bill on? So please, listeners, go out there, call your congressman and say, hey, don't do this. It has to be Obamacare or Obamacare Light. If you want an end to Obamacare, tell your elected representative that's what you want.
I just say kill it. I just say kill it now. Get it over with. I mean, yes, absolutely. Yeah, some people are going to hurt, but you know what, Dana? People are hurting now. People are hurting now under this thing. Okay, so people are going to hurt. Some people are going to lose their insurance. You know what? A hell of a lot of people lost their insurance because of Obamacare. You can go out and get insurance, Dana. We advertise here on Conservative Commandos, Liberty Health Share. An individual under 35 can get coverage under Liberty Health Shares for about $107 a month. Okay? You want insurance? There it is. You want to be covered? There it is.
80s, I think, or maybe more than that. Yes, that's wonderful.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dana Allen and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM/FM 24/7. Don't go away, Dana and I will be right back with more news and commentary.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots,
The Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader, the Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Dana Allen and Rick Trader. For rebroadcast, please check out our websites, ccrshow.com or CCRS Network, or at 11 a.m. log on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or at midnight log on to redstatetalkradio.com, or you can hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Dana Allen, what's going on AUN-TV.com?
Several things. One of the main things, I think, is in regard to global warming. There's just a wonderful article out, and we're sort of stealing this from American Spectator, but it's like Confessions from a Climate Denier, and it is just, if anyone out there wants to know about what's really going on with this debate and the fraud and all the things, the bullying that goes on, just a beautifully written piece, and I really recommend anyone to go and check that out.
Confessions of a climate change denier.
Yes.
Gives me a little opening. One of the very few good things that, in my opinion, Chris Christie has done as governor in the state of New Jersey is to pull us out of something called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiatives. And basically what this is, it's a group of states in the Northeast, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York. You get you get the picture, right? A bunch of liberal states. Well, they said that, well, if the federal government wasn't going to create a cap and trade scheme, they were, okay? That if the government wasn't going to rip off taxpayers, going to rip off people who buy gas and electric, they were. So for several years, New Jersey was part of this theft of taxpayer and ratepayer money. But one of the few good things that Chris Christie did is he got us out of this mess about 7 years ago. Well, Chris Christie's term is coming to an end, and now the Democrats in Trenton are wanting to pull us back into this mess. It's not enough that people have to scrimp and save and can't pay for their insurance. They can't pay for their heat. They can't pay for the electric. They can't pay to put gas in the car. No, Trenton wants to take more of their money in the guise of this regional greenhouse gas initiative, this cap and trade scheme for nothing, for absolutely nothing. And here comes these greedy, stinking, lousy Democrats once again wanting to...
in the United States who has been benefited by any of these anti-global warming things, outside the people that make money off of it. But I'm talking about in terms of health and environment. Do you know a single person that's been benefited?
No.
I don't either.
Maybe politicians who put their stinking friends on these commissions like this regional greenhouse gas initiative. Oh, they'll stack it with their friends and allies who helped get them elected, and they'll get six-figure salaries out of it.
Exactly. That's it. And some people that benefit from bribing the politicians to do this, and the corn ethanol and so forth. In this article I mentioned, Rick, it has one quote, and it's from John Kay of the Financial Times, and I just like to read it. It says, "Science is a matter of evidence, not what a majority of scientists think. The notion of a monolithic science, meaning that what scientists scientists say is pernicious, and the notion of scientific consensus actively so. The route to knowledge is transparency and disagreement and openness in debate. The route to truth is pluralistic expression of conflicting views, which often not as quickly as we might like. Good ideas drive out bad. There's no room in this process for any notion of scientific consensus, and this is absolutely true. What was a scientific consensus in Christopher Columbus's time about whether the Earth was flat or a globe?
Well, what was the scientific consensus? That the Earth was the center of the solar system.
Both.
Yes,
that's right. The Earth was flat. That's what 97% of geographers taught in universities, and 97% of scientists taught that the Earth was the center of the solar system and the sun went around us. So when Copernicus and some other people figured out that we were going around the sun, they had the exact same reaction of these global warming cultists, religious cultists that we have today. Oh, we have to put them in prison.
And that's what they did to Galileo. They put him in prison, Dana. Galileo was imprisoned because of his belief, that the sun was actually the center of the solar system. And I invite anybody out there right now, please go to your science books or even Google it. What is the center of our solar system? And they will tell you the sun. And,
That's right.
Let's lock up Galileo Galilei because he has a different idea than we do.
Absolutely. So this whole thing is anti-science. That's what I'm a scientist. I have a degree in geology. And it's just so, it reeks and drips of anti-science thinking, that this idea that, you have to go along with the thought that the sun revolves around the Earth, or you get put in prison. And we have the same thing going on. Robert Kennedy Jr. says that anyone that disagrees with this should be put in prison and tried as a war criminal. I mean, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, well, his family should be put in prison and tried for every crime that they committed, too. And murder. Ask the family of Mary Jo Kopechne about that.
Driving people home from work, was he?
Yeah. This idea about carbon being a pollutant. If it wasn't for carbon, nothing on Earth would be growing, Dana. Nothing green on Earth. There wouldn't be a flower, tree, plant, vegetable, fruit. Nothing would be growing without carbon.
That's right. Carbon dioxide is what plants live off of. We live off of oxygen, and we exhale carbon dioxide. They inhale carbon dioxide, and they exhale oxygen. So if you do away with CO2, all plant life dies, and then eventually we die too. And
Dana, for years, going back into the 70s, they claimed we were going through global cooling. And then it got warmer. Oh, now we're going through global warming. And then there's proof out there that temperatures haven't changed in the last 2 decades. So now they're saying, well, it's climate change. Well, I believe in climate change, and I got proof that climate change exists. Over the last 100,000 years, and I got to do this quick because we got to go to a break. Yep. Over the last 100,000 years, there have been 4 major ice ages. In each of those 4 ice ages, there was a sheet of ice that covered North America. The last one was only 12,000 years ago. In some cases, that ice sheet was over 2 miles thick. It reached all the way down to Princeton, New Jersey. Yep. I believe in climate change. The climate's changed in 12,000 years, and another 12,000 years will probably be back in another ice age. But if mankind, Dana, if mankind,
right now, where I'm talking to you from,
Dana, let me finish.
In geology, and I've never met any scientist.
And Dana, let me finish this. I would like to know what they were heating their homes and what they were driving 12,000 years ago that melted that 2 miles of ice. Explain that to me, and then I'll believe that mankind has anything to do with global warming or climate change or anything else. But you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dana Allen and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Somebody out there knows how to get on to Skype without a stupid Microsoft account. Please call me. I'd like to know. I hate
that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We the people never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Conservative Commandos. Coming to you live from WNJC 1360, our flagship station, Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7. On AUN TV today, which is the website's AUN-TV.com, we have another story that's actually very entertaining. And what this is Dick Durbin, the senator. It was interviewing Judge Gorsuch about going on the Supreme Court, and he really made a fool out of himself. You have to see this video. It's on the top of the page, And what it was about was whether, women, when they're being interviewed for a law firm, whether they should be asked whether they might become pregnant or not, because, there are economic downsides for that for the law firm. And Senator Durbin had all of his facts wrong. You have to watch his video. So at the end of it, where he's trying to pin him down and, make Gorsuch look bad, he found out at the end that Gorsuch had the exact same opinion that Durbin was trying to promote. And because Durbin had not done his homework, at the end, all Durbin said, thank you for clearing that up. It's a hilarious video. On a more serious point, we have another story up, and it's about Tommy Robinson, who's opposed to very high Muslim immigration in England. And we have a video up of him. And he revealed something in this that was shocking to me. He said that 50,000 British Muslims had downloaded the ISIS terror manual last year. That was before the terror attacks a week or so ago. And he goes on a rant about this. But, where was the government? If 50,000 people download a terror manual, how to do terror, which they followed for this particular terror attack, using cars to run down people on sidewalks and so forth. Why didn't the government interview those people? this, and he is steaming mad about the fact he didn't. And he points out a lot of the other fallacies. So you actually have to see the video to get the full impact of this. But again, this is a case where our media hides things, and our government doesn't do all that good of a job of protecting us. So, Rick, are you there?
Yeah, I am, Dana.
Yes, good. Any thoughts on this thing in England where they have 50,000 Muslims in England download a terror manual, how to attack England, and the government does nothing about it?
Well, Dana, they don't... I was watching a documentary this morning about the rise of Hitler. Mm-hmm. And at that time, England and especially France was naive in thinking that about the threat that Hitler posed to Europe and the rest of the world. For instance, during the first year of the Second World War, the French captured over 1,000 German pilots. Mm-hmm. And Great Britain begged them for the French to release these pilots to Great Britain so they could send them to prisoner of war camps in Canada. Well, mm-hmm. France refused to do that. So when France capitulated to Hitler and the German army, guess what happened to those 1,000 pilots? They all went back into action. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I see a very similar situation here, that Europe doesn't understand the threat that they are under. That at any time, these people that they let into their country can turn against them, and we've seen examples of it already. And I think the examples that we've seen in Paris, other parts of France, even in Great Britain and in Canada, are very small compared to the acts of terrorism that are going to happen in the future. As you say, 50,000 people have logged on to these sites.
And downloaded the manual on how to commit terrorism. Yes.
50,000. That's incredible, Dana. We are at war.
They should interview them. These manuals advocate murdering people. And so that gives legal justification. They know who these people are. That's one of the advantages and disadvantages of the internet, is they collect all of our information out there, folks. And so they know who it was that downloaded it. They know when they downloaded it. Why not send a Bobby out there and ask him, why'd you download the ISIS terror manual? I think it would be a very worthwhile thing to do.
I do indeed. I do. Governments have to realize what a threat we are under. But the problem is, Dana, half the government, the liberal side of governments, not just our government, governments in France, governments in Great Britain, governments in other parts of Europe, the liberal side of it thinks that, if we let these people in, we can convince them to be nice people and play nice with us. And what they're going to do is they're going to vote with us. So we're going to let them in.
Right.
And that's a false hope, Dana.
Be nice or not. They're so short-sighted. Because in the end, they might be some of the people end up getting killed. But yes, I totally agree, Rick. That is their motivation. Their motivation is if we bring in a whole bunch of Muslims and a whole bunch of illegal Mexican immigrants, they're going to vote mostly for the Democratic Party, and we don't care what's good or bad for America. All we care about is what's good for the Democratic Party, and that's what's driving this.
And the blood from these terrorist attacks has to be on the hands, or is on the hands, of progressive liberals and Democrats in this country, and progressives and liberals in other parts of the world. These people are out to destroy Western civilization as we know it and replace it with their own culture.
You know, there's a book written back in the 1950s, and I think it's James Burnham. Did you ever meet him?
No.
Okay, and his book title was The Suicide of the West. And I became a conservative at a very, very young, tender age of like 12. And I remember reading that book, and it's still going on. You know, and Europe is committing suicide even faster than we're committing suicide. And there aren't any good reasons for it. You know, France is worse off, Sweden's worse off, Germany's worse off. The English have woken up to a degree, you know, with the Brexit, but still, it's like, what are these people thinking? Don't they realize that they're signing their own death warrants?
No, they don't. No, they don't. They're so naive and blind. They're so blinded by the idea that they can control power. That this is their method to control power.
That there's nothing that the God of government can't solve. So, do you think that's part of it, Rick?
Yeah, I do. What are you asking me for, Dana? I'm just about ready to explode here. All right, because they've got to see it, and people are going to die. People are dying because of it, Dana. People are dying, and the numbers of people who are dying now are minuscule to the numbers of people who will be dying in the future. Why? Because half of government, or I say half, I think there's probably a lot of Republicans that also cannot see it as the threat it is. Okay. Hey, Dana, we got to go to a break. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dana Allen and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with our friend George Landreth about the Chinese taking over MoneyGram. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Tell me.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm lefty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. If you'd like to hear rebroadcasts, you can go to our websites, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. At 11 a.m., you can go on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or midnight, you can log on to redstatetalkradio.com, and you can listen to us on any phone at 832-999-1199. I'm very pleased to have with us George Landreth. He's the president and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom. It's a public policy think tank that's devoted to promoting a strong national defense, free markets, individual liberty, and constitutionally limited government. He is also a graduate of the University of Virginia Law School, and he's admitted to the bar in both California and Virginia, and he's also a member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and he's an adjunct professor at George Mason University School of Law, and he's taught constitutional law, appellate advocacy, and legal writing, and he's also run for Congress as a Republican from the 5th District of Virginia. Welcome back, George.
It is great to be with you.
Good. It was good meeting you at CPAC, and you've written this article, and it has one fact in there that was absolutely stunning, but I don't want to jump too far ahead. But basically, it's about that a Chinese company, Ant Financial, which the government of China mostly owns, is planning on taking over MoneyGram. Tell us why this is important.
Well, on the one hand, foreign investment isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think we have to look at the source here. The Chinese government is a communist regime, it's a totalitarian regime, and everything they do is for strategic purpose. They're even willing to lose money if it advances their agenda, if you will, their political, military agenda. So my primary concern is if you look at kind of their history with privacy, if you look at how they've hacked the federal government with the Office of Personnel Management, and then you also look at what they did with they hacked into the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation's website as well to get all kinds of private data. This would give them access to literally millions of America's private information, banking information, and who knows what they want to do with it. They don't have the track record to suggest that they value our privacy or our security. In addition to that, you have this all banks in the United States and most of your banks throughout the world abide by certain rules so that they can kind of track money laundering. The Chinese wouldn't be interested in doing that because they actually like to launder money and they want to fund causes that they see, and they'll be nefarious causes. We're not talking about the Metropolitan Opera. They want to fund nefarious, whether it's regimes or so forth. You've got Iran, for example, that likes to fund terrorism. China has its own ways of destabilizing, spreading that influence throughout the world. So it just doesn't strike me as a smart move to give them a way to launder money. So for a variety of reasons, I'm hoping that the U.S. government will say, no can do.
That's right. The Chinese for decades, when I say Chinese, I just mean, communist China, mainly
right.
China.
We're not talking about a racial group here. We're talking about government.
Exactly. They were, especially in Africa, trying to get into place, and unfortunately with some success, their people. Do you think that they still have that, even though they're semi-free market these days, they're sort of half Marxist and half free market, sort of like Adolf Hitler did in Germany. Do you think they still are trying to promote all-out Marxist ideology in the rest of the world?
Well, I think that they're very strategic. So, for example, you mentioned the fact they're somewhat capitalists. They are to the extent they realize that if they can harness the power of capitalism to benefit them, they believe in free markets. Right. But in their own country, they don't necessarily believe in free markets. They're interested in controlling things. And the one problem you have with free markets is it doesn't give the government lots of power. So they play both sides of the fence. In other words, we like free markets when it pads our pockets because communism isn't very good at making money. It generally loses money, and people stay in the line. But at the same time, they like the control that communism provides. So, like you accurately said, they've got one leg in each camp. But it's not because they're converting slowly; it's because they're behaving strategically. They see it as we want more cash, so we'll be capitalist when it benefits us, and we'll pat our pockets so we can fund more of our destabilizing and our expansionist view of the world. But we'll also be communist when we need that control and to exercise that essential domination that we seek.
Yeah. Their original benefactor was the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union would back off occasionally because people were starving to death and they had no money. So then they'd allow people to have their own 1 acre plots or whatever to grow food so people wouldn't starve to death. And so today, China is very powerful. It has the second biggest economy in the world. They're able to build aircraft carriers. Back when they were pure Marxist, they were half starving to death and they didn't have any aircraft carriers. So this is what you're talking about in terms of being able to fund things they want to. They have to allow a certain amount of freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll allow it in as much as it benefits them, but they'll stop as soon as it doesn't. And that's the nature of a totalitarian regime. You mentioned, you gave the example of Hitler. He did that as well. He had diabolical plans, and he was prepared to, if somebody could benefit a little bit from a millimeter of freedom so that he could have more of the things he wanted, he was happy to do that. But I think his history on freedom is pretty clear. And he's an enemy of freedom, clearly and through. And I think that China is too. They're an enemy to freedom, but they will occasionally grant it when it will advance their agenda of squashing freedom.
Right. Yeah. It is. These two counter currents take place at the same time. Well, your second point in your article, George, is their horrible record on property rights and rule of law and so forth. And I'm an investor, and I actually buy stocks in foreign markets with foreign money. So I buy Canadian stocks and Australian stocks. And, from past bad experiences, I will not buy a Chinese company because they cook the books, and the government doesn't seem to care, so it's like a scam. And so I just have first-person verification of your point on their terrible record on property rights and the rule of law.
Right. Part of capitalism is transparency. Capitalism doesn't work when they can lie to you. That's why we have fraud laws on the books, because capitalism requires you and I to get together, and if we're going to make an agreement, we have disclosure and we understand. And we may take risks, but one of the risks we don't take is that I have no idea what it is you're selling me or what it is, we actually do know those things. And so one of the reasons why a totalitarian regime isn't very good in the capitalistic system is because what you just presented. How often do we hear how China has 6% growth? They've been having 6% growth that they report in the press since I was a boy. Well, if that's the case, they'd be by far the richest country on the planet, and they're not. And why is that? Because they're lying. So you're exactly right. If you're buying Chinese stock, you're probably buying a pig in a poke.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, your next point, that's the one that really got me, George. You say here, I'll just quote right out of your article, and American intelligence officials estimate that by hacking alone, China steals more than $350 billion each year from American companies. That is 3 times the value of all U.S. exports to China. That astounded me.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us some more color on that?
Sure. I think maybe the best one that I've seen is if you just have your listeners, of course, when the show is over, Google a picture of the new Chinese fighter jet bomber, the new aircraft. It's stealth aircraft. And then Google the United States' most recent version that we've been working on for a long time and is pre-existed. And you'll notice that they look almost exactly alike except for the painting on the tail.
Wow.
And that's because they basically stole it. And most of your people in the Pentagon will, off the record, freely admit that. Some will hint at it on the record. I think it's probably been admitted on the record. But the point is, they steal that kind of stuff. Of course, they do other stuff too. They steal, and this may not matter to listeners that much, but piracy of movies and music is absolutely run amok in China. They sell it all over the world. It's big business. You can buy car parts that are knockoffs, so you buy it thinking you're getting the real car part from the manufacturer that lives up to the standards that it has. But it's just the packaging that looks like it. The part inside is substandard, and you put it in your car, and 6 months later you need a new one. That kind of stuff. So it's from A to Z. Everything from children's toys to car parts, fighter jets, and they steal intellectual property all the time, big time, in an effort to, again, quote, make more money because they're, quote...
Hey, gentlemen, this is Rick back at the studio. Sorry to break in, but Dana, we need to take a break. George, could you hold on for just 2 minutes for us, please?
I would be very happy to.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dana Allen and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. On the phone with us as our guest is fellow Conservative Commandos, George Landreth. We're talking about the Chinese taking over MoneyGram, as well as a lot of other things. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We the people never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, Conservative Commandos. If you'd like to hear rebroadcast of today's show, you can go on to ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com. At 11 a.m., you can go on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or at midnight, you can log on to redstatetalkradio.com, and you can phone our number and listen there at 832-999-1199. Today we have with us George Landreth, and he is the CEO of Frontiers of Freedom, and we've been talking about this acquisition of MoneyGram and by a Chinese company and the dangers that poses to us. George, welcome back, and on this thing that we just talked about this $350 billion that we lose to Chinese espionage and hacking. Is that Chinese companies doing that, or is that the Chinese government doing that? Hello, George.
Oops, sorry, I had it on mute. I've done this before.
No problem.
George, you should know the routine. No, watch that mute button, George.
I know. I have a rogue mute button. I apologize. So the answer is it's both. It's hard to distinguish between the government and the businesses there, just because it's a totalitarian regime, and the government owns a significant portion of most every company that's of any decent size, and so as a result, these businesses become tools for the government to accomplish its goals. In the United States, we have big businesses too, but the reality is they aren't subsidiaries of the government. They may be run by Americans, they may have an American worldview, but the reality is, in the final analysis, you name the company, whether it's Hobby Lobby or oil company or a technology company. In the final analysis, they're owned by American stockholders and they're American companies. They're not owned by the U.S. government. And so they'll behave in a way that promotes their interest. They wouldn't, for example, like Apple Computer is not going to buy a company that's strategically important to the U.S. government, but not important to it, on behalf of the government. It just doesn't do that. It makes no sense. But in a totalitarian regime, they'll do that because, that's what they're all about. And so they use every tool at their disposal.
Yep.
So that's just the kind of unfortunate reality.
I might be able to add just a little bit of color on what you just said, which is when I used to be with American Investigator TV, we did this thing on where the U.S. government was trying to shut down some rare earth mines in California, and this would greatly benefit the competition, which was Chinese rare earths mining company. So we interviewed the head of it, and they had an American office in Burlingame, California, and so we say, this company's having all these problems with the EPA and so forth, and it looks like the mine's going to get shut down. Do you have similar problems, in China? He goes, oh, no. Chinese government own 50% of the company. We have no problems at all. And I hope no one's offended by my caricature I just did, but, that goes exactly to the point you just made.
Right. And so that's just kind of how it works. So it's fine for someone to say, oh, but this is just a Chinese company. There's just no such thing, quite frankly, not in a totalitarian regime. So it's important for listeners to realize that this isn't about people of Chinese descent owning a financial institution in the United States. That's not my concern. My concern is a totalitarian regime that is one of our adversaries in the world, using their domestic and financial, using their industrial and financial policy as a tool to gain leverage over America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's my concern. I don't care about what their national origin is. Not important to me. But I do care about what their political agenda is and what their record on freedom is.
Exactly. With this thing with MoneyGram, let's say if we go back to the Cold War in 1975, if the CIA could get control of a bank in Russia, it would have been, in terms of being able to see all the, the accounts and everything, the way that anyone that gets control of MoneyGram will get this. I mean, that would be, heaven for the CIA to get that type of access. In this case, it's being done in public, but the Chinese intelligence is going to get roughly that same type of access. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the reality. Example would be in the United States, if the federal government wants access, or any law enforcement agency wants access to banking records, they have to get a warrant to do that, which means they have to provide probable cause. That's not how it works in China. If the Chinese government wants something, they get it.
Gotcha.
And so that means they put a lot of money into hacking, as we already know from their hacking of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation's financial records, and also when they did the Office of Personnel Management and gained access to private employee data of millions of federal employees. The bottom line is they're interested in data. They want to use it to their benefit. I'm not sure exactly what they intend to do with it, and we probably don't fully yet appreciate the breaches that took place. But those are the ones
that we know about, right? I'm sorry, but those are the ones we know about. So they probably have some other breaches that we don't even know about.
That's a fair point.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely a fair point.
George, on this, is there any way to stop this?
Well, there is. We actually have a thing in the United States that was Gerald Ford created it, and it's called the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFIUS. And it's comprised of a number of representatives from U.S. agencies and departments, including the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary of State, Secretary of Commerce. And they have the right to block foreign sales and foreign investments that they believe would result in a foreign power acquiring assets and intellectual property that would be harmful to America's national security. So, for example, if China wanted to buy a major defense contractor and therefore acquire missile technology, the government could say, no. You can't buy our American company that makes that for us. Not going to happen. And I would argue that given China's track record, I don't know, if they want to control, some bubble gun company or something like that, or maybe that wouldn't be a national security issue. I'm not saying everything China buys is. But financial records of millions of Americans is pretty valuable stuff. They've already demonstrated they want it, that they have a voracious appetite for that stuff. So they don't want it because of passing interest. They've got a strategy for it. And I would argue that we should start viewing these sorts of things a little more like we would view if they wanted to buy, one of our high-tech national defense contracting companies.
Gotcha. Now, for our listeners, is there any way that they can help you in preventing this from happening?
Well, I think one thing to do, it's always good. I mean, members of Congress can certainly write letters. One thing that might be a good idea is for our listeners to call their congressman and their senator and say, please let this Committee on Foreign Investment, in other words, write these different people, because congressmen can do that. They can write letters to and just say, we'd like to let you know we're tracking this issue, we're concerned about it, we hope you're mindful of this. That would help raise the letter. I think that if these people got a lot of letters from members of Congress, they might say, because I don't know if they're thinking about this. This is not the sort of thing we know publicly. There's been no hearing, so we don't really know. But my concern is that this looks very garden variety. Looks like, okay, so it's a company that does financial bills and payments and transfers of money, and that's not national security.
No.
Hey, George, sorry to interrupt you and Dana, but you know how the thing works here with the clock. George, please tell our audience how they could follow your work.
Absolutely. FF.org. That's FF like two Fs as in freedom, frontiers of freedom. Go there. My stuff is there. You can follow me on Facebook at George Landreth, and same thing on Twitter.
George Landreth, thank you so much, and we'll talk with you tomorrow, George.
Good work on this, George. I had no idea about this until seeing your article.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Dana Allen and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM/FM 24/7. Dana and I will be right back with our next guest, Dr. Elena Johnson-Plow.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the Commander. of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. This is Dana Allen with Rick Trader. If you'd like to hear rebroadcasts, you can go to ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com and at 11 a.m. Red Nation Rising Radio, or on midnight you can log on to redstatetalkradio.com and you can phone in to listen at 832-999-1199. I'm very pleased to have with us today Dr. Elena Johnson-Pa, and she is a Romanian conservative. She's a freelance writer and author, radio commentator, speaker, and she has written a book called Echoes of Communism, having grown up underneath it, and also Liberty on Life Support and the UN Agenda 21. And, I see you even have more here. And Communism 2.0, 25 years later. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, Elena.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, good. You have an article out, and you just put it out, and it's called Socialist Healthcare Disguised as a Tax. And in it, you think that we are stuck with Obamacare. I so hope that you're wrong, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about this.
Yes, I do hope I'm wrong as well, but I have said for a long, long time that we are stuck with it for the simple reason that it is such a mammoth bureaucracy already and has actually given insurance and medical care to people who were previously unable to purchase insurance, that it will be almost impossible to walk it back. The only time that would happen if you would have a war or social collapse. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am at all.
Well, so far the history of prior really big things, let's say like Social Security and Medicare, is that, once you give out a benefit, even if it's fiduciarily fraud, like Bernie Madoff type accounting, which both of those were, that you're stuck with them. Do you think the fact that this time that Obamacare is, so much less popular than the prior big social programs, do you think we have a better chance?
No, I don't think so. The reason being, for the last several months, the very same people who were screaming, let's repeal and replace Obamacare, now they're actually glad that the vote did not happen in the House. That the Republicans didn't have enough votes to pass their version. So I think that is this split occurs or this insane thinking is because people still are arguing, is healthcare a right or is healthcare a service? And, of course, those who are less economically inclined, they scream that it's a right. And, of course, the other part of the population believes it's a service like any other, which you have to purchase.
Right. Even though this is maybe unrealistic, because, you studied this and you had the perspective of growing up in a country that had a full, Marxist single-payer health care system, what do you think would happen if it was just, we didn't, not only did we not have this, we didn't have Medicare, and a step further, we didn't even have insurance, that people just paid for their medical care? What do you think would happen? Do you think it would, there would be no doctors, there would be no health care? What's your opinion on that?
Well, if you remember, I don't know what age person you are, but I remember in the 70s when I first came here, and doctors were quite competitive in the pricing of their services. You could go see a doctor for $15 and pay cash. And other services were likewise competitive and cheaper. However, we have to keep in mind that since then and now we have a lot of procedures that prolong life that are quite expensive medically, and the cost of our health care has risen tremendously because of regulations. But yes, we would still have doctors. Would we have the quality that we have today and all the medical innovations that we do? I am not sure. First of all, almost 80% of our population already had this openness to medical devices and innovation that other countries did not have, particularly in centrally planned systems. And we had access to a network of clinics and hospitals that were quite capable of offering the most advanced care found anywhere in the world to most people. So that was almost 80%. And then there was another 10% of the population that had individually purchased coverage. These 80% had insurance through their employer. And, of course, if you went to an emergency room and didn't have any kind of insurance, by law, you were still treated. So I don't think there would be a catastrophe and a lack of doctors if all of a sudden Obamacare went away. It may be slightly chaotic for a while or perhaps terribly chaotic, but I think eventually if it's a free market, it will work itself out.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Prior to 1940 in the United States, there basically wasn't health insurance. And so practically no one had it. My great-grandfather was a doctor in the Old West in Oregon, and he would charge people different rates. If he had a rich customer, he'd charge him more. If he had someone that didn't have any cash, he'd take a chicken, for his services. So, I think that, there's something I read in your article here, and you say, look to Venezuela's healthcare if you can stomach the malpractice, filth, blood, decay, bugs, rats, neglect, abuse, etc. in their free clinics. And I have studied that, Elena, and nothing you said there is an exaggeration. That's basically the way it is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I grew up under communism, and we had government medical care, and I put care in quotation marks. When I was 15, I went to the dentist, and he tortured me with root canal for 6 months without any anesthesia, blood spurting everywhere. And after 6 months, he had to pull the tooth anyway because,
you poor thing.
The instruments and whatever he had were so primitive. And I can't tell you all the, shots that we were given with the same needle without autoclaving. And, in schools, particularly children got sick from each other. Luckily, we didn't have AIDS and Ebola back then, but there was hepatitis.
That's right. That did happen later, and in the Soviet Union, AIDS was widely spread by the same thing you just talked about, reusing needles. On that very cheerful note, we have to go into a break for 2 minutes. Please stay with us and have some more questions for you. So we're coming to you from WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM, FM 24/7. Stay with us. Thank you.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We the people never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. This is Dana Allen with Rick Trader. If you'd like to hear rebroadcast, you can go to our website, ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com. At 11 a.m., you can go on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or at midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com, and you can listen on your phone at 832-999-1199. I'm pleased to have with us today Dr. Ilina Pa, and she has written an article about that. Unfortunately, she feels that Obamacare we're stuck with it. And so we've been talking about that, and also what happens in a socialist healthcare system. You have an experience with your uncle, and it reminds me of what Sarah Palin called death panels. Can you tell us what happened to your uncle in Romania?
Yes, he passed away recently from untreated pernicious anemia. That they still have socialized medical care there, 27 or 8 years since communists supposedly went away. He was told to go home by the doctors of the socialized system, that he was too old and resources had to be allotted to treat younger people who were still productive, actually had a job. Well, this man was in his early 80s, but he could run circles around some 20-year-olds. I mean, he raised a garden. Anyway, he was a very, very strong man. So he died a horrendous death of untreated pernicious anemia. And that often is the case when you have government as a monopoly on your care. They have to ration everything at some point. In the beginning, it just seems okay, but then eventually they have to ration. And getting back to our Affordable Care Act, which was passed actually signed into law in 2010, the worst parts of it didn't come in until 2014, and yet we haven't done a whole lot to have a concerted campaign to avert the disaster of this. And there's one simple idea that I had, which was to send a check this year from the federal treasury to each of the 50 states equal to that subsidy which was paid to them in 2016 to support the Affordable Care Act, and then let every state choose how they would see that their citizens' health care is managed. And I bet you'll come up with 50 different ideas, and they might be useful to have a national type of insurance to replace Obamacare. The Congress can't possibly write a comprehensive mandate that would fit all the 330 million Americans. And as I said earlier, only about 10% of our population, or perhaps 15%, did not have insurance. And as it is right now, we were only able to insure with Obamacare 20 million more, and most of them have been placed into Medicaid.
What's your opinion on Medicaid?
Well, it's, in my opinion, in rural areas is a kind of substandard care, really. In metropolitan areas, a lot of the doctors refuse to take Medicaid and Medicare because they're paid so very little by the government, and their overhead is tremendous because they have to have a staff to comply with all the regulations. Plus, a lot of times they're stiffed by patients who don't pay their bills or can't afford to pay the bills, and they pass on the cost to other patients who actually do have insurance.
So actually it has an effect of raising, which is what's been happening, is people's healthcare insurance has gone way up since Obamacare.
And then yes, true. And then the other issue is this health insurance with a shiny card, or is it a tax? Justice Roberts said it's a tax. I'm not sure how the IRS is treating it right now, if they're still giving penalties to people for not obtaining medical insurance. I've heard some rumor that they weren't, but I'm not sure. April 15 is not here yet. So people are still confused. Is it really a tax, or is it really forcing someone to buy a service, in this case health insurance, in order to be treated medically?
If you, I'll just give my biased opinion here. I just love to see Obamacare just killed and just go back to the way things were before, because things were better, definitely better before than now.
They were
where
cheaper
we are right now,
in terms of premiums. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I think overall, I think it was one of the reasons we've had such slow economic growth under Obama was Obamacare. But being where we are right now, I see that you've quoted Dr. Lee Hybe and some other things. What would you like to see done today in regard to? Would you like to see it totally repealed? What would replaced? What's your
I would like
preference?
to see it repealed and then replaced with some of the suggestions that Dr. Lee Hybe had made, which is allowing the free market system to price insurance and actually sell insurance across state lines, portability in essence. And actually my idea is to do something about tort reform. Nobody's talking about that because there were a lot of medical malpractice, frivolous lawsuits where a lot of people were awarded millions and millions of dollars, sometimes for small injuries, sometimes for tremendous injuries. Some of them were able to say, yes, it was the doctor's fault. Other times it was so-so. If you look at Europe, that is not allowed. And also the earnings of the doctors in Europe are capped, I think like 110,000 euros per year. That is not the case in a free market. People should be able to price their skills on the free market, not have the government tell them, okay, you can only earn this much, and you have to go and practice medicine in such and such a place, which is the case in all socialized medical systems. But to me, and also taking some personal health responsibility and perhaps expand those medical health accounts that we used to have, but they always went away at the end of the year if you didn't use them. Dr. Hybe suggests that we should have them, let's say, $5,000 in a regular care account to go towards eventually buying premiums and phase out Medicare and Medicaid, and maybe another $5,000 for catastrophic insurance. I remember in the 70s, we paid cash to see the doctor for sniffles, but if we had something serious, we bought catastrophic health insurance.
You know, Dr. Paul, this is Rick from the studio. No one was ever denied medical care, number one.
Of course.
I unfortunately feel the same way you do. I'm afraid this is the way it is. But we are stuck with Obamacare. But I also believe that we can get out of it just like we got into it. People were given a year to get insurance, remember? And if they didn't get insurance, then they were going to get hit with a fine. Well, let's do the same thing in reverse. Let's give people 1 year to find insurance. And there are cheap policies out there. You know, for instance, one of the things that we advertise here on Conservative Commandos is Liberty Health Shares. It's not insurance. It's like a co-op where people help take care of each other's medical costs. And guess what? That is acceptable under Obamacare. There are things out there that people can do. But this thing has got to be stopped. We've got to stop this individual mandate, and we've got to stop all taxes and penalties because of no insurance or of medical devices.
I agree, sir. And the problem is that most people who now are insured under Obamacare, their deductibles are so huge.
Yeah.
No family will meet the deductibles before the end of the year so that they can use their insurance.
Hey, Dr.
They're
Paul.
not really able to use it.
Dr. Paul, we're right up against the end of our show. Please tell our audience how they could follow your work.
Yes, I write for CanadaFreePress.com. I have a blog, RomanianConservative.com, and I have a website, IlianaJohnson.com. And my books are sold at Amazon in paperback and Kindle.
Dr. Ileana Johnson, Paul, we want to thank you so much for joining us on Conservative Commandos. Take care. God bless.
Thank you, Rick. God bless.
Dana, I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank George Landreth for being a guest today. I want to thank Mr. John Forsythe Jr. for working the boards. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
1360 AM. WNJC. Washington Township.
Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.